Hey there, my name is Alex. I am the Silver Mont, and in this video, we're going to talk about Game of the Year 2023. I would say it is the general opinion amongst the video game community that 2023 was a pretty solid year for video games. You know, for big releases, we had things like Resident Evil 4, Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, that Cyberpunk expansion, some Mario game, some Zelda game, Alan Wake, and plenty of smaller or indie releases too. Yes, I know Baldur's Gate 3 technically is an independent title. And if you are a Souls fan, which there's a good chance you are if you're watching this, we had two major Souls clone releases of some note, Lies of P and Lords of the Fallen, as well as Remnant 2, which is, I mean, it's not a Souls clone, but it's Souls adjacent. We also had Armored Core 6 from FromSoft, and if I've timed it right, this video should be out just a little bit before the Game Awards, which I think are on December 7th, and maybe, hopefully, Elden Ring DLC announcement there. But what was your Game of the Year? Let me know down in the comments. I didn't, and can't play every single title that releases, of course, but I played a good number of games, including a lot that didn't release this year. But it was also a year where I stopped playing quite a few games that have been staples and daily ones for me. 1,023 hours in Destiny 2, but this year was the straw that broke the camel's back and I quit back in September or so. I ditched it for a number of reasons. Final Fantasy XIV, despite a great start with Endwalker, has been, for me at least, on a downward spiral and my interest is kind of diminishing. I have thousands of hours in that game, and right now I only really hop on to stop my house exploding. Square Enix also released Final Fantasy XVI this year, which I was excited for, but it disappointed me. I'm not gonna say it was bad or anything, but it wasn't what I was hoping for, to be honest. And Square Enix also announced very recently, like within the last few days, end of service for a mobile game that I've been playing for years, Dissidia, Opera Omnia, something like that, which I never reviewed, come to think of it. My review would have been quite positive, but there's no point reviewing it now because it's dying soon. So I'm going to get out of the way quickly. My game of the year, assuming nothing comes out in December that blows me away, but my game of the year is Baldur's Gate. It is the game I played the most this year, I think. And I also believe it's just the best game that has come out this year, despite the stiff competition. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here as I've already reviewed the product, but it just hits so many right notes, you know. I, for the most part, enjoy the writing, I enjoy the graphics, the art style, the combat, the gameplay, more than Divinity 2 where everything was like weird shield things. Fun solo adventure, great to play with friends. It's the sort of game I want to keep making characters in to see different things because of the replay value. It's high quality, it's high effort. Of course, it's not perfect, it's got some performance issues and some crashes, and it kind of, the quality definitely dips a bit the further you go, but they've been patching it frequently and improving it, so hopefully soon, Act 3 will be as good as Act 1. But they've been adding new content, and I think they fully deserve the praise they've received. I know a lot of people were like, very suspicious or angry, and there's been a bit of a hate campaign about the game, and well, that happens every year though. You know, after Elden Ring got Game of the Year, I made a video on it, so many people left with these reviews saying, God of War should have been the Game of the Year, Elden Ring is the garbage. Meh. But I'm glad a game in such an uncommonly discussed genre has blown up in this manner. And yes, no, I hardly ever play CRPGs as they are known, but Baldur's Gate, it appealed to me a lot. And not because I, as a kid, was obsessed with Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, which was like the action RPG Baldur's Gate thing. It didn't really have anything to do with the other Baldur's Gate games, but man, I love Dark Alliance. Dark Alliance 2, I played that so much. You know, I think they released that game on Steam recently, but no, like, online? Wrong. Whoever released that for doing that. But how about other games worth talking about though? Well, Baldur's Gate might be the game of the year in terms of both enjoyment and quality for me, but there's another title that I had loads of fun with in the latter part of the year, Fate Samurai Remnant. In all honesty, it's not a game for everyone. It's not even a game for most people. It's not the most amazing game either. All the same, I had a lot of fun with it. Sometimes the game doesn't need to be amazing after all. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, I think is kind of the nearest thing to a perfect video game in that it achieved everything it set out to do. And I love Red Dead Redemption 2. Fate Samurai Remnant, it's pretty basic in a lot of ways, and it's not the most fantastic thing ever. But I enjoyed it, and that's what video games are about, alright? Having fun. Sometimes a game doesn't need to be amazing. It's fair, though, to hold developers to certain standards. Look at Starfield. If I had an anti-game of the year, it would be Starfield. Years in development, Microsoft money and funding behind it. And supposedly, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but supposedly Microsoft delayed the game like 9 months to a year or something to polish it more. Or they wanted Bethesda to polish it more. And if that's true, again, I don't know if it is, wow, I dread to think what it would have been like had it released earlier. But there's no excuse for it, frankly. If you have the resources and the time that Bethesda have, how are they not putting out titles as polished and high quality as, say, Baldur's Gate or Red Dead Redemption? Baldur's Gate 3 gets the prestigious Silver Mont Silver Award, which is better than Gold because I say so. Starfield gets the Pee Pee Poo Poo Man Award. Bethesda should be embarrassed to have released such a mediocre title out into the world after hyping it up so long. Resident Evil 4 Remake, meanwhile, was a strong contender for Game of the Year, but at the same time, I don't think it was ever really going to win for me. It's a remake. Whilst it's a great remake, I don't know if it needed to exist. All those Disney live-action remakes of things like The Lion King, and what's the point? You can watch the original Lion King, it's probably better than the new one. I've not seen the new live-action remake, and it still looks good, it holds up fine, there's nothing, like, dated about it, so why? Games are a bit different because games develop so quickly. Like, if you go back 10 years, 20 years, like, gaming is almost unrecognizable in terms of, like, graphical fidelity, at the very least. Maybe not so much gameplay, but, they develop and advance so quickly. But even so, Resident Evil 4 original with the amazing high definition mod that took the, 2 guys or whatever who made it years, still looks good. It plays good. And that mod is, that gets a mod of the year for me because they put so much effort into that. It's really good. Go check it out. But yeah, it looks good, the game. It plays good. And the remake, cutting, changing a few parts, changes aren't inherently bad, but at the end of the day, I just don't know if we needed a Resident Evil 4 remake. Still, it is a great game, and I'm sure it introduced Resident Evil 4 to a whole new generation of players and fans. I forget sometimes that Resident Evil 4 came out, 2004, 2005? And there's people who were, born in 2005. My brain's too small, I can't really disabuse myself of the notion that people were born after I was, Small world, small brain. Either way though, if you have to remake a game, Resident Evil 4 Remake is one of the best ways to do it. Not perfect, but pretty damn good. The Game Awards show has some other nominees too, like Alan Wake 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom. I've not played Alan Wake 2, or the first one for that matter. It looks kinda cool, I'm sure I'll get around to it one day. As for Mario, it's Mario. I don't dislike Mario games or anything, but I haven't played any Mario since Sunshine. And I played Sunshine and I was like, this is fine, it's just kind of not as fun as Mario 64, so I assumed then Mario Galaxy would be the same. I just sort of lost interest in them. I don't think they're bad, I don't feel compelled to play them. As for Tears of the Kingdom, looks too much like Breath of the Wild for me to be interested in picking up a copy. I enjoyed Breath of the Wild for the most part, but I don't want to play Breath of the Wild again, so I don't really see the point of Tears of the Kingdom myself. I've watched one of my friends play it for a bit and it's just seen and done most of that already. Of course, if Breath of the Wild can win Game of the Year, why can't an iteration of it? But it's not my pick, because I didn't play it. How about Souls Clone of the Year, eh? Can we call Wulong a Souls clone? It's almost there, but Wulong was perhaps the most disappointing title of the year for me, tied with Final Fantasy XVI. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my time with Wulong, but I was expecting more. I think it's a fine game, generally speaking. It certainly has some issues, and it's not for everyone. Like the performance ones were frustrating. They've been updating the game though, and they're trying to improve it. Quite recently, they added like a weapon trait system, which is nice to see. I'll certainly go back to it once all the DLCs are out, and I'll probably play through the whole thing again. So when I say it's the most disappointing game, it's because I had really high hopes for it. I love Three Kingdoms, I love Neo, so Neo Three Kingdoms was a concept I was really hyped for, only to be let down as it didn't reach its potential. In terms of actual Souls clones though, I think for me it's the Lies of P. I reviewed that game, and whilst I certainly had issues with it, I think it's the only Souls clone I've played where the developers got the feel of Dark Souls' atmosphere and storytelling and quests and all that done mostly right. Compared to, say, Lords of the Fallen, which has no soul from my perspective. It has no nuance, no subtlety about it. It's a hollow imitation that is superficially resembles Dark Souls. It's like if you went to that chat AI thing and said, make me a Souls game, and you went, here it is, Lords of the Fallen, and yeah, superficially it's got a lot of the stuff, but again, it has none of the soul. Not a bad game, but staggeringly average in the important ways. Also, probably the game with the most ardent defenders. I was rather unfairly, I feel, attacked by fans of that game, but that's nothing new. Some people get really disgruntled when people criticize things they enjoy. I had like one person say like, oh, you gave this game less than an 8 out of 10, so this review is garbage, I'm not gonna watch it. It's like, if you already like the game and you know you like the game, why are you watching a review of the game that you know you already like and you have in your mind a score for it? Because at that point, to me, it just feels like you are seeking affirmation of your own viewpoints, and why do you need that? If you have your opinion, then that's your opinion. You don't need someone to tell you that's the correct opinion, do you? I don't know. But yeah, no, some people get disgruntled when people criticize things. Others just don't understand why people criticize things. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Only that doesn't actually apply to criticism of commercial products. That's when you're talking about people you know, generally. Criticism is extremely important, both on a professional and a personal level. Big companies will always do their best to mute and censor any kind of criticism because it might impact their profits, which, it makes sense. These companies exist to generate revenue and profit. That doesn't mean we need to roll with it. Look at YouTube, removing dislikes. They claimed that was for creators, people like me. Foolishness, Dante, foolishness. It does not help me at all if you remove dislikes. It also didn't matter to me at all if I had, like 99% dislikes. I mean, I remember my Dark Eater Medea video. That was like so many dislikes, and I had a couple others like that too. I didn't care. If I say I don't like this boss and people say, you're stupid, it's like, okay, cool, I don't really care. The fact that YouTube did this after a string of videos ending up at like 90% dislikes on ridiculous trailers or announcements from, giant corporations, not from people like me, might be a coincidence, but I don't think YouTube's fooling anyone. It was when, companies like Disney announce some ridiculous stuff that gets, perhaps rightly, disliked by most people that see it because they see it and they go, this is stupid, why does it exist? And Disney are like, no, go to Disney Plus. There are no reviews. Because companies, corporations, they kind of, in a way, hate reviews. And you might be thinking, well, Alex, you get a lot of review copies of games every year. Yeah, I do. For the most part, I take review copies of things I think reasonably I will like, but probably can give some sort of insight or hopefully constructive criticism. A lot of companies, they kind of, from their perspective, the review is an endorsement. That's what they want. They want, say someone has like 20 million subscribers. They want that person to say, this game is good. And in all fairness, that game might be good and the person might genuinely think it's good. So in that case, yeah, everyone wins. But sometimes, well, it's not that simple. Indeed, Game of the Year, the Game Awards, it's a huge marketing and advertising gimmick. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy watching the VGAs or whatever, but the amount of commercialization there is worth noting. At the end of the day though, Game of the Year is the game you enjoyed the most, right? A lot of the time, those will coincide. Like, I'm sure many people would say their game of the year happens to be one of the ones that's on this list. Baldur's Gate, Spider-Man, whatever. But it doesn't matter what wins the VGAs. It doesn't take away from your enjoyment, right? And again, on that note, what is your game of the year? Let me know down in the comments, and if Baldur's Gate wins, I probably, in a few months, will have to make a video reading reviews on Metacritic of Baldur's Gate 3 that give it a 0 out of 10, and see how many of those are just people seething that it wasn't their choice that won. And I'll see you in 2024, where if Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't win my game of the year, something's probably gone very wrong, so, well, let's check back in a year.